This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. I'm super pumped. We've got a very special guest joining us from Vancouver, Canada. I love Canadians. He's an audacious leader, storyteller, practical, proven, unheard of ways, been there, done that career, frontline lover, trenches, not textbooks. Please welcome Roy Osing to the show. Roy, thank you for joining us today.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here and grateful to have an opportunity to talk to your audience. Great.
Yes. It sounds like we're going to have a lot to talk about. So based on that intro, which was very broad, but very interesting and dynamic, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I've been around for a while and decided at a very young age that the business I was in wasn't adapting quick enough to the changing environment that it found itself in. We were being sort of moving from a certain world into a highly competitive and technology changing world. And so I looked around and said, you know what we need to do is we need to start focusing on doing things differently in order to survive and thrive in that world. And so it led me to this be different journey that I've been on, which is to try and figure out ways of looking at things, life, business, relationships, whatever, differently and in a very simple way in order to stand out, be observed, capture the hearts and minds and passion of people and be successful. So I've spent a lot of time doing that. I ended up leading a data and internet company. It was a startup and we achieved $1 billion in sales in a relatively short period of time, kind of using the stuff that I learned and practiced. And so it's all about breaking away from traditional stuff. Okay, so my thinking is tradition is okay, and I'm not wanting to beat it up, but I'm saying in many respects, my discovery was that it simply wasn't good enough to be able to withstand the kind of dynamics we're in. And in today, even it's far more dramatic. I mean, this is not a new subject for me. I've been beating this thing around for like a lot of years, and it's continuing to be super relevant. And in fact, today, I would argue it's more relevant to be able to stand out in some sort of unique, compelling way and attract people and providing them with things they need in a way that nobody else does. And so that's my journey, break away. And I've attracted a whole lot of labels for that, some good, some bad, but it doesn't matter because we've been pushing forward, getting progress, exciting people, lighting fires in people, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, and I we had this conversation before we started recording that you embrace the labels instead of this is called label free, and so it's a very kind of a different mindset, but it still is a positive way to deal with that. So can you explain to us like how you feel that aligns with the label free message?
Well, I think it's just I guess the way I look at it is I kind of have labeling and branding sort of in my head together. Okay. And it becomes a strategic exercise about creating a tag with supporting behaviors that is successful for you and serves the purposes of those people you serve, whether it's your friends, whether it's your grandchildren, whether it's your organization. So I look at label building in my world as a strategic process. And so, for example, one of the things that always worked for me in terms of the source of innovation was being contrarian. Now, so I got to be known as a contrarian. That's okay. I did that very, very specifically with purpose. I was okay with it. And I would say, thank you very much. You recognize that my behavior is contrarian. Let's have a conversation about why that's so important, right? Because it is a source of innovation. I mean, let's face it, there's way too much copying going on. Everybody copies everybody under the guise of innovation, which, by the way, is intellectually dishonest because it is not innovation, it's copying. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is give people hooks to do simple things that we need so much in this world, like being creative. You can't create if you're copying, Deanna. You just can't do it. And so I say, go pull a 180 for God's sakes. Go up in the opposite direction and invite the tagging that you're contrarian. That's a good thing. I mean, Steve Jobs wrote about the crazy ones. Come on. I mean, I love the crazy ones. I love the weirdos because you know what? You can put them
Yeah.
down, but they will change the world. And that's what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah. See, now I'm considered the crazy one in the corporate world, and I was good as an entrepreneur, because that worked because it was my business. But working for somebody it did not work very well. Like I would always I would question my managers, my bosses, because you're being a leader before and making things happen and getting results, comparing it to the way I was being led, the direction I was being given. I would always question it, like, this doesn't make sense. Like I think this, I think that, and that ended up getting me in trouble. And ultimately, the last job I got fired because I questioned the CEO. And, I was just kind of like, you're not giving me any good direction. I'm not getting any good training really on how to engage our clients, because I wasn't in the IT, I was selling software, a SaaS as a service, and it was a completely new platform. And and they were also a IT consulting firm. And so what I was learning is that it's not a typical product. You have to really build a relationship with the C-suite to get their trust to even take a call with you. And he was expecting miracles. His whole business was built on his relationships. So bringing somebody new in that doesn't have those relationships and just trying to say, oh, here, this is what we do, it really was not effective in me making any good contacts or any headway. I mean, I did make some headway, but he wasn't a good leader in that respect. And so I questioned him.
And you have to. But at some point, I mean, I've been
Well,
asked,
I no longer have that job.
well, I mean, at some point, I've been asked the question, what do you do if you work for a boss that doesn't get it? Well, you only have two choices. Okay, one
Yeah.
choice is you stick around, endure the pain, and hope you outlive them, or you get the hell out of there and go find an
Yeah.
environment that cherishes the labels that you own because they're so
Yeah.
created. Okay, now I was
Yeah.
lucky because I happened to work in an environment where I was a relatively young guy in an engineering dominated environment, and I was the guy trying to push customer service, trying to push marketing, trying to push sales. Okay, because we were going into this highly competitive world, and my view was
Yeah.
we needed those skills, and they had to be different from everybody else. I was lucky because I had people around me that liked me and respected me and actually had confidence in the weird stuff that I was doing was going to work out. Because they would say, okay,
Yeah.
Roy, have a go at it, see what you can do. And so we actually changed the culture of the organization as a result of that. And actually, in spite of some of the stuff that I did, they were very supportive. But not everybody has that kind of environment, and you have to make the call. If it's not working for you, you need to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's no use
Yeah.
complaining about it. You gotta deal with it. Deal with your shit.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I dealt with it. And
Sounds like it.
it was a blessing in disguise. It was a blessing in disguise. I'm much happier. I'm not miserable. My fiance is like, I just want you to be happy because it was not a fun
Absolutely.
environment.
Absolutely.
So you actually written a couple books about this.
Well, I've got my latest book is going to be out in print form on May the 31st. It's now available on ebook, and it's called Be Different or Be
Okay.
Dead, which is my brand, which is my
Okay.
label. Be Different or Be
Is that
Dead.
what we see behind you? Is that a book
That's
behind you?
right. Well, there's actually the red one is the first one I wrote called Be Different or Be Dead, Your Business Survival Guide. And I wrote that in 2009, for heaven's sakes. I mean, that's 13 years old. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
this content has got legs, I got to tell you. And
Yeah,
it's
for
even
sure.
more important, and the ones on the end, the bookends, that's the one that's coming out on May the 31st, which is called Be Different or Be Dead, the audacious, unheard of ways I took a startup to $1 billion in sales. Okay, so it's an updated version because I learn more and more about my stuff as I'm talking about my stuff, as
Sure.
I'm doing my stuff. And so that's going to be
Sure.
out. Really excited about it. We're using Morgan James out of New York, and they're a fantastic company led by David Hancock. Just a wonderful partner to have in there. And so right now, my thing is I'm doing a lot of work like this, trying to raise awareness of not the book. Okay, the point I want to make is
Right.
it's the content, it's the Be Different thing, it's the crazy ones aspect to try and change the conversation around boring,
Yeah.
traditional copying stuff that everybody's doing, that we've been taught at
Right.
school and is not productive. We got to break away from that stuff. The world needs us to be different, not stuck in a herd where it's warm, comfortable, not conflict. That's a place some people need to be, but we need people to be the hell out of
Yes.
that so that we can get some
Yeah.
progress and creativity and positivity in the world. And that's what we need right now.
Well, I'm all about that. I agree. I'm all about like be different, and just be yourself, which is sometimes different than just every, you know, other person out there in the world. Because a lot of people try to be the same, like sit in the societal standards. This, you got to go to your 9 to 5, you got to do this. But I think if you are more tapped into who you are, where you can make an impact, I think that is important.
Yeah, it's
My gosh, I'm
incredibly
so sorry.
important, and also the whole notion of visibility that goes around that. I know some people think it's a bit of a narcissistic way of looking at life, but the reality is, if you're special and the only person that knows it is your mom, then there's something missing. Okay, you can quote me on that's one of my, and it's true. Okay, I'm not talking about being noticeable and visible for as an ego drive. I'm talking about if you're doing value that people care about, you need to be noticed doing that.
Yeah.
You need to take the currency and the energy from that so you can continue to convert people, for heaven's sakes, to get on the bus, get on the journey, and keep moving forward. And I have lots of fun with people say, "Oh, Roy, no, I can't do that because I would be noticed." I go, "Yeah, because if your mom is the only person that
Yeah.
knows you're special, you got a problem, right?" And so trying to encourage people
Yeah.
to be okay with that in a very positive way, friendly, respectful way, that's the kind of behavior change we need because organizations need it, and we as individuals to fulfill our lives need it. I mean, I do that with my grandkids all the time. My label is the crazy papa with my grandkids. Okay, I got 4 grandkids. I have a strategy with them. They're going to remember me, okay, as papa that would step out and do crazy things and make them laugh. That's who I am. But the same principle exists in every strata of life, God's sakes. And certainly we need it in organizations.
Hey Dad, how you been? What's going on?
Well, not too much. Spring cleaning time.
Well, did you weed whack? Did you get the carpets cleaned? 'Cause I know Mom's all about that, so I want to make sure you're ready to go.
Well, yeah. I got the gutters clean. That's about it.
That's it? Well, when I said weed whack and all that and the carpet, I kind of meant like the Manscaped 4.0. It's a little more personal.
I understand. Yeah.
Works awesome.
Have you tried this?
I have tried it and it works wonders. It really does. Yeah.
Okay. This is pretty cool. And see, it comes with an LED light, and I understand it's waterproof.
It is waterproof. It works well. I tried it. It's a good product. It's a great product. I've tried other ones, and they're just so noisy, and they don't cut very well.
Wow, that's really good, Mike. Where do we get this?
Well, you can get it at manscaped.com, and while you're at manscaped.com, you know that we got a code, so we get it cheaper.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of a discount can we get?
We can get it at label-free 20, and it gives you 20% off the product, and it gives us free shipping. And I've tried some of the other products there because they got these all new premier products. Like this here, it's a deodorant.
Now, is it for underarm or other places or?
I tried, but it's for the underarm.
Okay.
That's where it's at. And you can also get it at manscaped.com. Same code. We're using the code again. Label free 20. Label
We
free
get
20.
20% off and free shipping.
Free
as
shipping.
well.
I mean, how can you go wrong with that, right?
Wonderful.
I love that. And I would love to be known as the crazy, grandmother or something like that. Because I think that's a good label. I mean, I know we're all about being label free, but I feel like there are certain things that we can embrace, certain labels we can embrace that are positive, that aren't putting us into that mundane type of square box that everybody tends to find themselves in, that don't ever, find the courage to step outside of. And that's why I started the podcast. So can you give us an example of stuff that you did within the organization that changed the culture? Because that's a big thing to do, being able to change the culture of an organization.
Yeah, and you know what? The first thing I have to tell you is it's not very complicated, which means a lot of people have trouble believing it because we've been taught to believe that the only stuff that is
Yeah.
true is complicated. So I want to dispel that notion. This is not textbook stuff. It's not complicated. It's human being related things. For example, I'm an execution guy. I don't believe that there's a whole lot of value necessarily in the plan. And if I execute well, I can take a mediocre plan and beat your pants off in the marketplace. Okay. So I created this whole thing around execution. In fact, I became known as the execution guy. That was a label I had inside because I would say things like, let's get the plan just about right and let's execute it pristinely and we will win. So the next question is, okay, Roy, how do you do that? So here's where the simplicity comes in. So I had this concept called, first of all, cleanse the internal environment. What that means is there's a lot of things in organizations that get in the way of, guess what? Execution. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to cleanse that. And I came up with this concept called, let's kill dumb rules. Dumb rules. Now, what's a dumb rule? Well, frontline people knew what a dumb rule was. It was all the stupid bureaucratic things we had in the organization that prevented the frontline person from doing the job they wanted to do, which was take care of customers, which led to loyalty, which led to good bottom line performance. So I had this dumb rules approach, which my executive colleagues kind of, looked at me a little askance about because they didn't like the language. They wanted to call them inappropriate things or some weird thing. And I said, no, they're dumb. I can call them stupid policies, but I won't call them anything else. So we ended up with dumb rules. So the idea was for people to come forward with what they thought was getting in the way, i.e. a dumb rule of great service. And we literally, I don't know what percentage of rules we changed or killed, but it was a significant number based on how to execute better, And I would have things like, I would have a big white t-shirt, right, with dumb rules on the front of it and a great big circle and an X through it. And I would walk through the workplace, right, and people would love it. They went crazy. Roy, I got a whole bunch of dumb rules I need to talk to you about. And I would hold my management team accountable for helping either kill the rule or at least change it. So dumb rules was one piece. Another one was what I call cut the crap, which was getting rid of things that maybe yesterday were relevant, but today weren't. And I got heck for that too, Dan. I got people say, you can't say that.
I bet.
And I said, well, what would you like me to say? And they would say, well, how about let's eliminate non-strategic activities? I go, no. Who's going to get fired up about that? Yeah, nobody. But they would get fired, and they did get fired up about cutting the crap. So we had a whole bunch of those simple little things that people thought were cool. They were cool, but they were very, very specific, intended to improve execution, to improve performance of the business. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. I mean, I hired for Goosebumps, which is another thing you might, at some point we could talk about, but there was a whole lot of simple little things like that, that all they did was they lit fires in people because they understood them. They realized what the connection was to performance. And that's what I was all about. I wasn't there just to be funny and cool. Oh no, very deliberate performance. And they could get on board with them, and they embraced them, and they had fun with them. And I was part of that process. I was a president of a company, for God's sakes, and I was down doing stuff like that with them. And they loved it, and they gave it back to me because their performance was outstanding. And that's what you needed to
For sure. And it sounded
like on a personal level, though, I have to tell you, so the crazy papa, okay, that was earned a whole bunch of ways. One of the things I did is I created a club called the Trollites, because my background is Norwegian, right?
Okay.
My grandparents were Norwegian. So I created a club called the Trollites, and my oldest granddaughter was the president, and etc. And there was 4 of us, and we would meet regularly in a little teepee, all right, that we constructed.
Oh my God, I love
in my basement of my house, and we would have meetings. Now realize my eldest one was probably 8 at the time, and my youngest one was just barely moving. But we would have a meeting, and they would say, Papa, where are we going to go today with Trollites? and I would tell them stories. And that's what we did. And I said, okay, so where are we going to go today? Okay, where are we going to crusade to today, right? Where are we going to take our ship today? And we had amazing conversations. They'll never forget that. And I stand out in their heads because of that crazy troll life club. I've still got the t-shirts. They're red. I should have worn one today for you. They're red and black, of course, my colors. And
Yeah. That's a great story. How can you, so before we start wrapping things up, how can people embrace that be different or be dead mentality where they step outside of their comfort zone to, you know, make an impact either in their life as a grandfather, father, or a businessman in their workplace?
Yeah, and you know, it's a really good question because we are fighting so many forces, right, that prevent us from doing that. Like we are taught at school that there's a formula for everything. We're taught at school to color inside the lines. Okay, we're taught at school. In fact, our parents beat us up if we're noticed, if we stand out, if we do things kind of weirdly, because I get a note from the teacher. So the system, right, is kind of like forcing us to stay in the herd. And to a large extent, it's kind of like an inch by inch process. And what worked for me was I'm probably a bit more thick-skinned than others maybe, but I had this gimmick that I used, and it was as follows. Every time I was asked to do something, I would always ask myself, okay, how can I approach this differently? That was my lens. Okay, how can I do it differently? In just small ways. I'm not talking about coming up with a major theory, you know, like the blue oceans and all that kind of, you know, stuff that may satisfy the left hemisphere of your brain, but it doesn't result in anything in terms of action. It doesn't light any fire. So I would come up with little things, and it may be how I did it, right? Putting more effort into it, attacking it from different angles to get used to the fact that I would be observed as the guy outside the box. Right. And it didn't happen overnight that I was comfortable with that, but I started. And every day I would say, and I challenge your viewers and your listeners to this. Tomorrow, just do one thing differently, just one thing differently, and give something up, all right, that you're comfortable with. And over time, you will find that you start to change your persona. You start to change the level of comfort that you have. And other people, and this is what I noticed, other people sort of watch you and go, that looks interesting. That looks, maybe I'll try that. What are you doing, Roy? What's that all about? Wow. And you've been invited now into a be different conversation. And you just sort of take it from there. It builds, okay? And the sort of dimensions of what you do increase over time. But it starts with just this little germ of saying, you know, I'm dissatisfied, right? I don't like the status quo. It just doesn't make any sense to me. How can I engage and actually change the conversation? And it starts small, and you just got to, the other thing is, I mean, the perseverance and the tenacity in this stuff and the amount of emotional energy it consumes is just incredible. I mean, it is drawing. I mean, I would come home sometimes after work, and I would just have to collapse on the bed, right, with an unbelievable migraine, and just kind of like lie down for an hour or so and just kind of recover and rejuvenate myself. I mean, that's how taxing it is. Some people, Deanna, some people, they're not meant to do that, and that's okay. That's okay. But for those of us that aren't satisfied with the way things are, I mean, it's kind of the way to get your toe in the water and then just, you know, move from there.
Sure. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much. And I apologize for all the dings that are going off. I don't know if you can hear that, but this computer, I don't know how to change that because it's connected to my phone. So Warren, you're gonna have to edit that out. But Roy, this has been a great conversation. So can you please let people know where they can connect with you, reach out to you, and learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. I've got a website. It's bedifferentorbedead.com. And there's a few resources on that I'd like to point people to. First of all, I write blogs every Monday. So please subscribe to the blog if the content kind of like attracts you. It's a way to kind of, I just write about my stuff. Now, there's a lot of examples about be different. There's a lot of examples about being same. And I don't mince any language. I'm hard on the functions that have been part of my career, and I believe I've earned the right to do that because I have a certain amount of credibility in them. And so there's that. There's also a page that has all my books. So there's a way to get the books. You pre-order the new one or go and get the old one. And the last thing I want to say is I have a Gmail address, and it's roy.osing@gmail.com. And I invite people to reach out and ask me things. Like, I love engaging with individuals. I have people writing me saying, well, Roy, what did you think about this? What do you think about that? I got this decision to make in my career. What do you think? And it's just a different perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm the expert. I just have a point of view based on a lot of experience and a lot of achievements. It's all I have to offer. I'm not making a prescription. You do what you want, but if you want access to a whole bunch of stuff that worked and some that didn't, I'm your guide. Reach out to me. Let's have a relationship that way, and I'm happy to do that.
I love it. And you're also on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'll make sure I put all those links in the show notes, you guys. So don't hesitate to reach out to Roy. Go check out his book if you are interested in being different or being dead, because I think that's a very powerful way to live. Before we say goodbye, any last words of wisdom or advice?
Look, everybody has their thing. All I'm asking for is you consider the fun and the liberation that's available when you step out. Okay, it really is. It is the prescription of rejuvenation. And I'm not kind of like altruistic that way, but I've learned that, wow, how much energy you can get when you actually take a deviant behavior pattern. I mean that in the most positive way. And so I just ask that people consider that. Do not ever be satisfied that you are the person or in an organization that you have the potential to be. You have got amazing potential. Everybody does. And I hope people are dissatisfied with the way things are right now and are looking for avenues to express themselves, reach more lofty heights, get more satisfaction with life. Try the Be Different way. Give it a shot. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
I love it. Perfect. With that being said, you guys, Roy, thank you for being a guest. This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to comment, share, rate, review, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.